All right, declaration B5 knot in a Rubberset 400 restored aluminum handle. I like to soak my badgers before the shave just to get them wet. You can do something else if you want. Blade we're using today, my old Nacet. This will be use number 105. I'm afraid one of these days the folds on this little envelope are just going to collapse because I've used them so many times. Here's the new guy to the party. This is a Maggard's handle, stainless steel, but on top of it is something new to me. This is a R41 head from Muhle. It's supposed to be pretty aggressive, but a good cutter, and so I've heard all kinds of things about it. It definitely has a reputation. Let's just see how everything stacks up. This one is one where you put the blade on the top cap. And then now look at this interesting, in a way it's open comb, in a way it's not. You've got these troughs of empty space, and then you've got the kind of the comb in a reverse arrangement where it's coming back in toward the blade. Okay, so we put the guy on there. Kind of looks like those posts are going to give it very good alignment. Sure looks straight. Let's see if we can wiggle it back and forth. Nah, pretty solid. Now look at the arc. That's a pretty flat blade arc. Very flat. That may be why it's such an efficient cutter. Because it's so efficient, I haven't actually used it, or I haven't sought it out until now. I found a good price on it on the used market, and I've just been enjoying more middle of the road razors, and especially mild razors in general. But now that I've got this old blade, it really likes the more aggressive razors, and so that's why we're doing it with this blade today. The soap is the same Cella I've been using 2 out of the past 3 days. Nice scent, and that's also why I picked this brush, because it's a smaller knot. The bristles are very compact. They sit up straight, and so I think they're more easy to get into this little tub. So 32nd was a load yesterday, and I shook out most of the water. It's still a lightly wet brush. And so today, why don't we try 40 seconds just to see. I think 30 seconds might have been okay, and if I use less water, but I'm interested in maybe densing up, making the lather a little bit more dense. And let's just see if a little extra soap, see what that'll do. So we'll do 40 seconds, and actually right now we started at 40. So at the 20-second mark, we will stop. That's 21 seconds there. Smells coming up. I like that. 30 seconds. And there we go. I would say definitely got more soap in there than I did yesterday. Just going to rinse a little bit off the edge of the soap container and get my face wet. All right, as usual, we are dealing with a 1-day beard growth. I use cold water and it is hard water. Yesterday, with the 30-second load, I put in 2 teaspoons of water. I'm guessing that today it might be wise to put in those same 2 teaspoons of water since I have a 40-second load. Just kind of making sure that it is consistently coming up, consistently mixed in before I add my next amount of water. Lather's looking nice. And when I do this, I'm not really pressing enough to splay the brush very much. This is not that pumping motion that you see some guys do. I am just trying to push the soap into the brush. This is such a dense brush that I think sometimes when I do a stir motion, the soap isn't really making its way inside the fibers of the brush. So this actually kind of puts it in there. Just a little theory of mine. So, I think we're looking good. Maybe a little bit more water. Let's do a finger test just to be sure. Don't want to underload it like I did the other day. Now this, I can definitely feel my ridges of my fingerprints. It feels a little water slick. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to keep stirring for a minute. See if we can make it a little denser. Maybe there are some bubbles in here that need to be worked out. I know that's sometimes the case with Williams and some other soaps. One guy mentioned online here recently that he makes sure to, I mean, it seems like this is what he was saying. He makes sure to, when he puts the brush on the soap, to stir slowly to build the soap up so that you don't introduce bubbles into your early soap paste or thick lather. So that might be something to try sometime. Let's pull it all down and see kind of what the peaks look like. In a minute I'll try my finger test again. It's got some movement to it. Look at that, it's gonna come down like that. It definitely is exhibiting, you know, some traits like that, often that I know to be indicators of please add more water. But I don't think that's the case with this guy because he just felt so thin between my fingers. So let's try it again. Still feels about the same way. Huh? Did I add too much water this time as well? I did hold back a 1/4 teaspoon. Maybe that's not quite enough. All right, you know what? I mean, because the lather looks terrific. But according to my fingers, it might end up to be a little thin on the face, kind of based on yesterday. probably should have stopped adding water a little bit. So you know what we can do is kind of scrape a little bit of this off the sides, and we'll do a 10-second load. I started at the 12-second mark right there. Let's see what 10 seconds does. Now, so what we've got now is more concentrated lather on my brush tips, and usually that doesn't really integrate too well into the bowl, and so it may stay on the brush. We'll see if it thickens up the lather, but at the very least it'll stay on the brush and it'll transfer to my face, and it'll almost be more like a hybrid face bowl lather situation instead of a pure either one. Who knows, it may thicken this stuff up. All right. A little better. Let's try it out. Seems to be a little better. We'll see if I feel it on my face. One more little splash, light. Get rid of the extra droplets for this case, since I think it might be a little too thin. With this brush, it's just so dense, sometimes I find I have to go back to the tub like that. All right. Spreading well. Happy with that. Let's just see how it shaves. So right now my Gillette Sheraton is the razor that really works well with this old blade at this stage. My second place with it at this time is my Petite Piccolo. The Sheraton does a little better job usually. So let's see if this guy ranks up there with those razors. Oh yeah, a lot more blade feel. I can tell I might have to start playing with the angles, or this may just bring up some irritation. Let's try riding the top cap. Meaning opening up the handle angle. This is very harsh. For my neck, let's try bringing the handle angle in a little bit. See what that does. That is also very harsh. That's crazy harsh. This reminds me of the the Christopher Bradley razor by Carve. First time I tried the E-plate with a young razor blade. This is kind of how it felt. I thought, holy cow, I'm never using this again. But then when I put the older, smoother blade in it, the E-plate was very enjoyable. Well, I will not be putting a young, sharp blade in this razor, or at least I'll do it very carefully. All right, let's rinse this. All right, second pass. As usual, nice, pleasant cherry almond scent. You know, I wonder why I like this scent so much. It may be because this is one of the first Amazon purchases I made when I started wet shaving, and I may have just really enjoyed the experience so much. I may be linking my happy memories with this scent. Who knows? All right, let's see what this thing does on pass number 2. I think my best bet is to try to ride the top cap, meaning this might be my normal angle, meaning bring it up more like this. Well, it is doing better, but holy cow. I'm not getting very much slickness. I think my lather technique on this one didn't work out very well. I thought that by loading for longer, that yesterday I added like I said, I added 2 teaspoons of water. And so I thought that by loading for longer, I would have a higher concentration of soap to water ratio. I didn't even add the 2 teaspoons of water totally. Backed off just a little bit. I thought that would be okay, but apparently not quite enough. Because I'm still getting that kind of watery skipping. Not very much, not as much glide as I really want. So even though the lather looks nice in the bowl, it's even got some firm qualities about it that may say, hey, it's too dry. Look how it retains its shape. I wonder if this is what's called a high structure lather, where like Barrister's Reserve is a low structure lather where it stays kind of creamy and goopy, whereas this might be a high one. I don't know. Just showing you so you can know what kind of lather I'm dealing with here. All right. You know what I'm tempted to do is let me check my results right now. I mean, this thing's cutting pretty aggressively. Let's see if it's done. Now, we still got some pretty good patches right here that need work. So let's hit them. This kind of happened to me once on Cedar by Southern Witchcrafts, and it just felt thin to the fingers, but it exhibited a lot of structure and rigidity, and so it kind of tricked my eyes. So maybe it's all just I added too much water because I was focusing on how it looked. You need to stop doing that, I guess, with some soaps more than others. Now, why am I not hearing any cutting? Because this is an area that has hairs to cut. Maybe try a different angle. You can go backwards sometimes and get some of that soap out from under your blade head to re-lubricate an area. I'm getting better glide right now. Yeah, much better kind of than I have the whole shave. Maybe the started off more with a dry face this time. Maybe that helped it to snap back into a more creamy lather. Whew, that first pass was a doozy. Well, I've got a good cut. It's not perfect. There are still some hairs there that didn't get chopped, but not a whole lot. Rinse. Of course, mind you, this is an old blade, and so even though this is an aggressive razor, it's possible that the geometry just isn't conducive to this old blade. Not all of them are. My Blackbird, I tried it, maybe used 70, somewhere around there, 60, and it just wasn't. It's an aggressive razor normally for me, and it continued to be that even with the smoothed out blade from so many uses. And so it seems like maybe the 41 is in that camp as well. This third pass that I just did was very smooth. The face feels well cut. Just a few hairs there that have some length on them, kind of like usual, but just a lot more rough feeling in that first pass. Sure, at some point I may try to put a newer blade, a younger blade in this razor, and we'll try it again and see just if it acts differently. But that is quite aggressive. So no, I don't believe he's going to be joining my my two razors that I showed you, the Sheraton and the Fatipa, that are good at handling this Nacet blade, so old. So there we go. All right, I don't think I see maybe a little bit of redness, but not really that much. I'm kind of surprised at that, actually. All right, let's find a balm, heal this skin up. I'm trying to use up this Nivea Sensitive post-shave balm. It's great. Here's how I get it out, just in case you are new and you're looking for the ways to do it. I put it up against my fingers and I tilt it so there's an open place, and then I shake forward and back like this, and so it comes out in the open place. And that way it controls it just a little bit, just in case you're having trouble getting a controlled amount out of the bottle. So this is the Sensitive. It doesn't have alcohol, so I'm not getting any sting. And I find that their original does have alcohol, and so I actually like it a little better. But I want to use this up and see how many uses I get out of a bottle like this. It's available everywhere. Amazon, Walmart, all that stuff, drugstores. and $5, $5.50 approximately. And it's got good ingredients too. Works really well. All right. Skin is being healed as we speak. So I didn't do the half pass that I usually do after the third, but this is what kind of lather I have left. Still quite a bit, maybe 2 passes worth, especially when you consider what's on the brush still. So this is an interesting situation. I'm going to assume that it's just a little too wet. Leave it at that. Try again on another day. So there we go. Cleanup time. I've had you paused for several minutes as I put on my balm there. I looked down at the lather and I said, let me whip up another batch. And this is the appearance, generally, when I compare this appearance with using a soap that's from some of the top tier artisan soaps, and this is usually too dry. But with Cella, this seems to be about just right. It looks, you see all the peaks and ridges, hard lines, very firm in terms of body. But when you take some of it and squeeze it in between your fingers, this is a much more creamy lather, much more slick. I would have put some on my face, but since I put that balm on there, I knew that would skew the results. But this is much more creamy and slick. I feel the difference. And so Cella, it just must not follow those same rules. And so that's why it kept tricking my eyes so effectively. And that's why I had a great lather a few days ago where I overloaded it because I scooped it. Probably used twice as much soap as I needed to. And that is why I got a great lather, because I had a greater quantity of soap, a higher ratio of soap. And so I ended up with a wonderful slick lather that day. But then these other ones, when I've been applying kind of my usual rules, even with the feeling of the fingers and stuff, see, this has got a lot of cushion. This is a tremendous lather right here. Very slick. It looks like it's too dry, but that is not the way Cella works out, apparently. And I'm not surprised, since this guy just has different consistency, different ingredients than the those top tier soaps out there right now. This has less of the butters and the oils and all those post-shave niceties. This is more of just a straight soap, perhaps. And it looks tremendous because it is. It feels great. And this is what I'm going to achieve tomorrow. I'm going to nail it down. There have been a few other soaps that have kind of been like this. And so I just need to stop adding water way earlier than I have been. And not trust my eyes, realizing that this guy can be all rigid. He looks rigid on the outside, looks like he's got lots of body, but inside he is slick and creamy. It's just the way it goes. Well, I'm glad I did that test, and so in that regard, maybe next time I might do the 40-second load. And look, I only used 1 teaspoon of water for that 40-second load. I added 3/4 more to get that first lather, the lather that I shaved with. And so that's almost half as much water. So how about that, Cella? How about that? And I'll note that this is the 2013 R41 head. There is a difference. I don't know whether this is the early one. I think it might be the later one that's less aggressive. And so if it's more aggressive than this, I don't want it anywhere near me. But this is a 2013. Maybe I'll look it up and put it in the comments regarding whether it's the more aggressive one or the less. I really thought with the roughness of that first pass that I was going to end up with some really raw skin. It's not the case. Skin feels great. I don't feel any irritation at all. So I think the brush did well today. It was a thinner lather, and so I think these dense brushes really kind of, they stay dense, and they stay kind of hard in the core there without giving very much splay if the lather is thin. And sure enough, that's what it was today until I did that second one. The blade, I thought I was going to end up with some weepers and some irritation. Somehow it worked out. I wonder if the sensation, the discomfort, was due to actual tugging instead of scraping or cutting of the blade on the skin. I don't know. Happy with the Cella. Once I adjusted and learned the water ratio, that was a little bit better. So just ignore the look of it, ignore the high structure, maybe I'm using that term right, and pay attention to how it feels, and put in maybe half as much water as I usually do. But since I'm using about half as much soap, that totally makes sense, because Barrister and Man, Holy Cow, all those top tier, Noble Otter, Declaration Grooming, all those I need pretty much a quarter teaspoon. But if I use a quarter teaspoon of Cella, I get a double batch. Okay, so you just need about half as much soap. And so then that stands to reason, in actuality, that I might need half as much water. And so that's a little bit reasonable. It's not too crazy. And the razor, I am going to be careful when I try a younger blade in it, because I've got to, just to see what happens. Might learn something. And but I can see why people who if they don't like mild razors, if they just have tough skin and just want to mow down that hair, I can see why this is at the top of their list. So, all right, the shave is happy. The face is done. Hope there was something here for you. I know I learned quite a bit about Cella tonight. And this is Sugar Daddy Shaves. Take care. Good night.